Welcome to episode 13 of the Audio Barnyard. With Don Barnes, I'm Donnie Barnes. We are brought to you, as always, by VOJumpstart.com. All right, today we're recording a pretty topical episode. Most of the topics we cover are relatively timeless when it comes to voiceover, narration, and podcasting, but today we're talking just a day after a big article came out, big blaring headline that got shared widely across different voiceover and podcasting groups across the internet, saying Audacity is now spyware and you should delete it right now because otherwise, who knows, the Russians might spy on your entire hard drive, something like that. Anyway, Don, I thought we should record sort of we could call it an emergency podcast, instant reaction podcast, but we have done some reading on this, and you in particular, as a former software developer yourself, you have lots of experience in that field too. So can you tell us, is Audacity actually spyware now?
Yeah, well, the short answer is no. I would never delete Audacity today because of it being spyware. First off, it's kind of dumb when someone tells you to delete it now. The reality is the current generation, what's out there and available to everybody, doesn't have any of the new stuff that's coming down the road. That's a future version that they're planning. It is planned for July, no matter when you're watching this, July of 2021, version 3.3, if I remember, or 3.03, but it's in the 3 series and it's the number 3 in that one. That's where they're changing the privacy policy and they're starting to collect some data. And they put out some word about it. And it has caused some controversy. Some of it's just their fault. And we'll talk about a little bit about why that is. But if it's me right now, I'm not taking it off of my machine right now. I do have it. I don't use it on a daily basis. But I also don't like people essentially going out and bad-mouthing something when it's an invalid complaint. If you have other reasons, and we could talk about 100 other reasons why I might choose A over B, or I wouldn't use that, but I certainly wouldn't take it off because it's spyware.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you if you were going to delete yours right now, and you just answered that. No, you wouldn't. So if you're not deleting it right now, what long-term issues should Audacity users keep their eye on going forward?
Well, some of it will depend on what they do with the final wording of this document. Right now, it does allow them to take information. If law enforcement came in and says, I want to see what Don said on this day, and they have access generally to do that. I don't think they would. I don't think they plan on doing that. I don't think that was their intent. But as written right now, I just went and read a whole set of articles and some people that have great legal backgrounds and comparing it to other sites and their policies. Right now, it does give them the right to go in and get some recording that I did. If I recorded this podcast and I cut out some of it and it had some legal thing in it, technically, the state of California, based on the language that's there as of this date, could request that they go get that recording. And I mean, they would never do that in my case because unless they need a sleep aid, then they'll grab some of those recordings that I did that are outtakes. But the point is this: you don't have to worry about it if you have the current version. Don't go delete it just because you have 3.02. In the future, if they don't amend this and they continue with it, I would be concerned about it. And that is kind of the problem. It's more future than what's happening today.
Yeah, so maybe the state of California really didn't like your stance on punch and roll and how much you love it. Maybe they're on the anti-punch and roll camp if they end up requesting your podcast for legal reasons. So you mentioned, so the long-term outlook, we want to keep an eye on how they maybe reword this language because there's word that they're going to do that. They understand this is an issue. The broader backdrop of all this for people who don't know is that Audacity for many years was an open source, community-based project. It's always been free. It's going to continue to be free from what we understand. But they recently were acquired or sold to a new holding company, Muse Audio, I believe. I might be getting that slightly wrong. They're based in Russia, from what I understand. And so there is some question long-term, isn't there, about, well, why has Muse acquired Audacity? It appears they're going to want to make money from it if they've taken the time to acquire it. So the question is, how are they going to try to monetize that? And how could gathering users' data maybe be part of that? But again, we just don't know that at this point. So that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, well, one of the things in this business, it is important, or I think people, sometimes they select a DAW and they don't do the research behind the scenes to know about the company. And most of the established DAWs that are out there, you can go and figure out, Presonus has been around 25 years. The Reaper team's been around, I want to say 15. The Audacity team is 20. So Audacity team has 20 years of history of how they treat their clients. Therefore, you can get a pretty great feel of their attitude, what they do, what they don't do. And based on that history, I'd say, cool, they did a great job. And that's important. And I think everybody should look at the tools they're going to choose that are going to be the core of their business and make sure that the company behind it is fundamentally doing the right things, almost all the time. The big issues that come into this situation right here is we have new ownership. We have a new foster parent, I guess. And so now at this point, they could be amazing and they could help and they can make it better. They also have their own agenda, which right now we don't really know why you would acquire a free piece of software. We do know that, let's just put it out front. Somehow they want to make money on this. And there's nothing wrong with making money on this. I'm full blown. That's cool. The issue is that we don't know how it's going to affect the product. We don't know what direction they will take it. We don't know their intent. And they're going to say things, and we've all had the situation, a company says they acquire another company for reason A, and then a year later, things change. Their management team could change. Their objectives could change. And they don't have a history now that goes back 20 years or 5 years or something that's long enough for us to know what their intent is and where they're going. So that is a concern, for me in terms of the tools that I use.
Yeah, and there's no secret for people that follow us or follow this channel. And we're big advocates of Studio One, even though there are other DAWs that we greatly respect and admire. And there are certainly plenty of people that have succeeded using Audacity for a long time too. We recommend that you upgrade to a more robust DAW over time as you grow in your business, because it can save you a lot of time and hassle on every project. But that's beside the point of this particular episode. If you've used Audacity for years and you want to continue using it, awesome. If you're having success with it, great. But just be aware that, management has changed. If your favorite restaurant changes ownership, some of the menu items might change in the future. Hopefully they keep that food that you like. There's no guarantee of that. So just keep your eye on that and be aware of how things evolve over the coming months and years.
Yeah, Audacity's been a great product. Both of us started. I had a period where I used it. Some of my early audio books, you go back 7, 8 years. I have a set of books that I put out with it. So it has its strengths. It has its weaknesses. I just wouldn't get rid of it for all this quote spyware stuff at this point. And if that changes, we'll come on with an episode that tells you why, because we're monitoring it closely. There are other reasons that I would consider other options than Audacity, and we'll have a podcast on that specific reason. But for spyware, that's just clickbait. And I think it's lay people making conclusions based on what they read one time without going and getting some legal minds to say, yeah, that's right, or that's a concern, and that's not. And somebody just put out hey, it's spyware. What it is doing is collecting more data than it ever has. But the reality is, most of the other companies collect some data, and there are some wordings in there that the people who understand the legalese are telling us that's a concern. So we will watch it. We'll make sure that you're covered. Just don't delete it right now. If you like it, stay on 3.02. And then when the new version comes out, just wait a few weeks. And boy, that's a great policy with almost any software. If you're not sure, if you're not prepared with your backups and have all your situation in place, do not upgrade the day the new version comes out. And this one will have a little more concern. Let it play out for a few weeks or months, unless you have a specific bug that's addressed by that version. I wouldn't update for a month and just let it play out and watch our channel and watch. There's a bunch of great information that's out there. So don't just go changing the first day just because it's out.
Yeah, well, we hope you found this helpful. And of course, if you're curious as to why Don, for example, advocates Studio One and has helped a lot of people transition to it, or if you just want a free evaluation of your current audio sound and space, or you want to talk to him for free about your current audio challenges or things that you're trying to address with your space and your recordings, you can do all of that over at vojumpstart.com. Until next time, for Don Barnes, I'm Donnie Barnes. This has been the Audio Barnyard Podcast.
We'll see you. Bye-bye.